Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Wharton MBA Program for Executives Finance Panel. I'm Barb Kraft, Director of Admissions for Wharton San Francisco. We have a fabulous panel in store for you this evening, but before that, I'd like to turn it over to my East Coast colleague, Diane.
Hi, everyone. I'm Diane Sharp. I'm the Director of Admissions here in Philadelphia. And first, I want to start with a disclaimer. We are getting a wintry mix storm. So if I fade out on you, you'll understand, and Barb will take over, and a couple of the alumni here on the East Coast too. But hopefully we'll make it through this hour. I would like to give you a real brief overview of our program. I know some of you actually may have submitted your application on December 2nd. That was our round 1 deadline. Then we have round 2 coming up February 10th. And others of you might be really early on in the process looking toward next year. It's definitely never too early to start doing your due diligence on us and any other program you're investigating. And that's the bottom line is you really want to do your due diligence. You want to make sure any program you're committing to is going to give you what you need. And what we offer you at the Wharton School is the Wharton MBA. We have 1 degree. We offer 2 formats to earn the Wharton MBA. And for our program, the MBA for Executives, we require our students to continue working. So it's the same academic degree, and we offer the same experiential degree because we have a residency requirement. So our students come in a cohort, they're learning on teams, and they're bonding. So in 2 years, you have a Wharton MBA on your resume, and there's no distinction made in the market. So that does mean we're going to have the same admissions requirements as our full-time counterpart with a few logistical changes, just like there are with the program itself. The calendar is now on our website. If you're looking for the 2021 entering class, you can get a good snapshot of when you would be required to be in Philadelphia or San Francisco. And that is an additional bonus to our program. It's the same degree with 2 campuses. You apply to one coast, whether you want to start in Philly or start in San Francisco. You attend there for a year when you're doing your core curriculum. It's the Wharton Core with your learning team. But the second year, all bets are off. You can do 1, 2, or all 3 terms on the opposite coast. There's a lot of different factors people weigh in with on why they choose to do that. So just consider it, we consider it one big cohort of over 200 people. About 115 on average on each coast. All right, so we want you to post your questions in the chat function that you see on your screen. Barb and I will pose the questions you ask of the WEMBA alumni as we go. So please don't be shy. We want to get all your questions answered along the way. Turn it back to you, Barb.
Thank you. And for the best part of the evening, our panel, I'd love to have each of you please introduce yourself. Share where you're coming from this evening, the year you graduated, and a little bit about your background and your career. And if you don't mind, Pauline, let's start with you.
Sure. I'm Pauline Francis. I'm currently in California, down in Southern California, Orange County, and I graduated in 2016. I currently work as a partner in a firm called B2B CFO. There are 200 partners, and we serve clients who are in the private industry, all privately held, family-owned businesses that have revenue anything from $2 million to $100 million in revenue. So primarily serving the small businesses all across the country.
And Pauline graduated from the San Francisco campus. Val?
Yes, I did.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Hi, everyone. I'm Val Baudouin. I am dialing in here from Potomac, Maryland, which is just outside of D.C. So I am liable to be blanketed by snow, just like Diane is here. So if we cut out, that's why. And I work for Marriott International. I'm the CFO for Consumer Operations, which is our brand, our loyalty program. Some of you may know it as Marriott Bonvoy, and our credit card programs. And I've been here for 6 years, graduated from WEMBA in 2008. Seems like a really long time ago. And before Marriott, I was a partner at Deloitte in the audit practice. and went through the program while working full-time at Deloitte, and excited to be here and share the experience with you.
Great, thank you. Catherine, going around my screen here.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Catherine St. Ange. I am in Washington, D.C. right now. Also looking out on some white snow. I am a investment director at Cambridge Associates. Cambridge Associates is a investment management firm. So my role is basically to help design portfolios for families, for high net worth individuals and family offices. And I graduated from WEMBA in 2016 and have also worked for Wall Street firms, economic development agencies, and an impact investing firm, which is where I was when I was in WEMBA.
Thank you. And no snow for you, Dennis.
Although
we're not here.
Yep, there we go. There was going to be one of us that couldn't get that right, and that was me. I'm Dennis Sullivan. I'm here in San Diego. I graduated from WEMBA in 2014 in the San Francisco campus. I'm the Chief Investment Officer for a company called Biomed Realty. We own lab and office space for biotech and pharmaceutical companies. I've either worked with or for Biomed for the past 16 years. I started out at the investment bank that took the company public in 2004. We were acquired by Blackstone and a take private in 2016, and recently just recapped the business into a long-term perpetual fund. So I've worked for one company for a very long time, and was obviously here when I went through the San Francisco program.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, everyone. So yeah, I want to keep encouraging everyone viewing tonight to post your questions that we'll pose to the panel here. We'll get started with one, basically asking, why was it the right time for you to earn an MBA? And if you want to segue that also and talk about why Wharton was the one you chose to attend. And to make it easy, we can do the same order of appearance. It usually helps it.
Sure. So with me, it was when my son graduated high school and left for undergrad, I pretty much was looking at being an empty nester. And for the first time in my life, I was kind of free to do what I wanted to, because I had started running my business when I was 18 years old. So I did not get a chance after my own undergrad to do anything because I was busy running a business. So when my son left, I decided to think about what I really wanted to do for myself. And the best thing I could do was do the MBA program at WEMBA. It was something I'd always wanted to do. And timing-wise, it was the best thing because I didn't actually miss my son having left the house.
So it was a good time for me to go through the program. So I was about 12 years into my career at Deloitte as a senior manager. And the couple of things that I was trying to balance was I wanted something that was very rigorous, but at the same time still not lose my income while I was going to school. And so the executive MBA program made a lot of sense. It was also an important time to get ready for the next phase. And that's really how I felt about it, is that it was a good investment of time when we didn't have kids yet. So for those of you who are going to take this journey having young kids, it's going to be an interesting challenge. But it was a good time to invest in myself for the challenges and the leadership opportunities that were coming. And why Wharton? You know, what Diane talked about at the beginning was really the most important consideration for me, is that I didn't want a watered down version. If I'm gonna go, and I hate to say it, suffer through it, and put a lot of effort into it, then I didn't want an asterisk next to the diploma. And so that was a key consideration. I was based in Jersey at the time, and so WEMBA East made sense. And at that point, Diane did not offer me the opportunity for West, or this second year. That sounds so awesome. But had I to do it all over again, I would definitely have taken you up on that. So.
So I came to WEMBA, I guess, in a somewhat unique path. I had actually applied to the full-time program. I was at my point in my career where I decided I wanted to hopefully enter the impact investing field. And I actually had never, a lot of people say that they kind of hit a roadblock and know they need an MBA. And I hadn't personally hit that and was kind of questioning if I wanted to get an MBA. So I applied to business school and I applied to impact investing jobs and said, I'll see what works out. And they both kind of worked out. So a few months into my job at an impact investing firm, I found out I was accepted to Wharton's full-time program and talked to several people in the industry, and they advised me, it's a small space. There's so much you can learn hands-on experience that you're not going to get from a classroom. So, it would be wise to kind of stay in the industry and go to school part-time. And I, at that point, actually learned about the WEMBA program and was able to switch into it because I didn't want to leave the workforce. I was really excited about my job. I wanted to advance within the industry, build my network. But I also realized that there was a great deal of value in getting a business school degree. When I looked at people who I aspired to be, they all had master's degrees. So I, was happy to join the WEMBA program. I would say one of the things that kind of made it a no-brainer was the staff. When I was thinking about switching, Diane and all of her colleagues were actually reaching out to me to make sure I had all the information I had, I felt comfortable, which, some admissions offices at these big schools are like black boxes and you can't talk to anyone. But the staff at WEMBA was absolutely exceptional. And I think that was true for the 2 years that I was actually at WEMBA. So it was a phenomenal experience.
And Dennis, before you go, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump in real quick because actually our first question too here regarding people and how old they are. What Catherine is describing is what we call our fellows candidates. So someone is asking if our average age is like 36 because that's what we're looking for, is that when people are applying. It's generally what we're seeing, but we do have what we call fellows candidates, people who have less than 8 years work experience, and that's kind of where Catherine was looking at, and a lot of people don't have us on our radar, but we do allow you to apply to both the full-time and the executive if you're at that point where you could consider both. So we were just really happy that Catherine realized. I remember your quote to me was, I was at the admitted student day and those individuals were telling me, oh, you've got a cool job. That's what I want to get when I graduate. So that's why you knew that it was a better fit for us. So if you're not sure about that, if the viewers, Barb and I are happy to chat about, the full-time versus executive and what it means to be a fellows candidate. All right, thanks, Dennis. Go ahead.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I think I agree with a lot of what the panelists had said. So, when I was applying to business school, it had kind of always been on the radar. The mentor that I was working for, it was really important from his perspective that I broaden my experience, and going back to a degree he thought could let me do that. What I struggled with is I said, look, I have the job I want on the way out there. I have the opportunity in front of me. I'm not sure that I want to jump out of the workforce just to hope and get what I could on the back end. So, for me, I think that the program here kind of offered the best of both worlds. And the more I looked into the program, one quote that I heard as I was going through the process was that, look, anybody who's applying to one of these programs is applying because they've been successful at something to this point. But what they're going to realize is the skills that have gotten you to where you are not the same skills that you need to get you to where you want to go. And that very much resonated with me. And I think that, as I was going through the admissions process, I completely agree with Catherine. The staff was just fantastic. The cohort that I got got the opportunity to meet was fantastic. And it just very much felt like a fit that I was kind of confident going in that it was really the environment that I wanted, the program that I wanted, and it was great.
Thank you.
If I could add, sorry, I don't think I talked about why I chose Wharton to do the MBA. When I first started looking at MBA programs, it was 4 years previously, and I looked at 2 local Southern California MBA programs. And even between the 2 of them, I realized there was a big difference in the quality of what I was getting, which didn't equate to the difference in the price of the program. And so this time around, when I was looking, I looked at 2 other programs, including Wharton, but just attending the information sessions and interacting with the students, it was very clear, it was almost a no-brainer that Wharton was head and shoulders above the other programs. So compared to 5 programs, just attending the information sessions showed me that there was a difference.
Thank you. And our information sessions, we do have them going this time of year. So please log in for those as well. And the questions are rolling in. Thank you. Keep posting them. If you could share a little bit about the impact that Wharton has had on your career.
I get started on that one. Again, I work with small businesses and I work as a CFO right now with about a dozen small businesses. One of the things that I've noticed, especially in this day and age, it's really difficult for someone who looks like me, who doesn't fit the mold of a traditional CFO, which even I subscribe to. It is very helpful to have that Wharton MBA on my resume. It's almost like going to the front of the line just because people know I have the credibility because I have a Wharton MBA behind my name. I am in a firm that has 200 partners, and we've got only 8% women CFOs in the firm, all over the country. And I'm the only female partner in all of California in the firm. And so for me to be able to be successful at my job, I know that having the Wharton MBA not only gives me the skill set and the knowledge, but it also opens the doors with clients who feel comfortable taking my word for it, helping me become their advisor and trusting in what I have to say because they know I have the skill set and the education to back that up.
So I'll go next. The way I would describe it is it's a booster in a number of dimensions, right? So part of you selecting this program is not really changing careers. So you've heard that from Dennis, you've heard from Catherine and others. It's the booster in both the speed of success to me, as well as the ultimate trajectory of where you can go. For me, that's how it felt, is that it was it kind of like chutes and ladders, and you got a nice ladder that allows you to skip a couple of steps because of the credibility that it brings and the knowledge that you get with it. But more importantly, I think it opens up the aperture of what's possible. And that's the people talk about our program, we'll call it our program, really with the finance lens, but I think that underplays the leadership, the broad view of interacting with other amazing candidates as your classmates, and really gives you not just the resume builder, which is amazing, but the really practical skills and a different way to interpret information and view the world that changes where you ultimately can go. Certainly, that's the case for me. I was in a public accounting firm doing audits, and I understood the numbers and the financials very well. But this opportunity gave me the confidence as well as the tools to be able to talk about the business differently. And that was what I needed in order to get to the next level, at least in my career.
I'll say, similarly, even going through the business school curriculum, I was able to ask for a lot of different projects and responsibilities at the firm I was working at. I was at an impact investing firm and was asking if I could underwrite deals, which was not part of my job description, and my colleagues felt comfortable letting me do that, and taking on more assignments that also weren't kind of technically under my purview, but felt like I was learning and understood more about the business. And I think it almost endeared me more to some of our executive level leadership, because they would come and ask me, like, what are you learning in business school? And, oh, I remember that case, or I remember that lesson. And I could ask some really, intelligent questions that I think highlighted my understanding of the financial concepts that we were learning at business school. And I think ultimately that helped me get promoted at the firm that I was at previously.
I think all of that definitely resonates for me. I think for me, it's really three things. I think it's context, I think it's validation, and I think it's the network, right? I think this program changes the way that you read the newspaper, or at least it changed the way that I read the newspaper, right? Because when you're going through an article, there's so many things that you kind of know what that thing, but you read it a little bit faster because you don't necessarily have the context. You kind of know what that acronym is, but you find yourself nodding a little bit faster than you probably should in meeting, hoping that you're going to get to the next topic. I think that the program just gives you experience, or it gave me experience to things like marketing and so many of the soft skills around leadership management that just otherwise in a very finance focused role, I wouldn't have seen. From a validation point, I completely agree with the points that are made. As always being the youngest one in the room, it's an additional kind of check mark or a validation that, particularly in a public company, that boards can look to as an additional point that, you have that level of credentialing that allows you to continue to move with the same curve. From a network standpoint, our class was fantastic. We had 100 different folks. I do a lot of work in the Bay Area. And, even in my own work life, last year we signed a 300,000 square foot lease where I was negotiating the lease with one of my classmates that graduated with me in 2014. And we did the entire deal in 6 weeks, and nobody could understand how it was that we had gotten this done as quickly as it was. But that level of trust and that level of relationship just made problem solving through a lot of the transaction that much easier. So I think that the things that I have gotten out of the program in terms of the softer skills, the career development piece of it has really kind of come across in ways that are different than just being able to check the box that, I got this grade on this class, I've taken macroeconomics. All these things come down to perspective. And I think that that's really the biggest thing that I've been fortunate to take away from the program.
Thank you. Question we have here is, obviously you guys were working full time in very busy jobs. How did you balance it basically? How did you make it work? Some of you were getting empty nesters, some were pre-kids, some might have had kids. I know there were students every class are growing their family. So any thoughts on how you really just make it work for 2 years to get through this demanding program?
It does take time. You have to be very disciplined, and somehow or the other you make it work. And if you're interested in what you're studying, you don't even realize how much of time you're putting into it because you're soaking it all up. The interactions are very engaging. The class and the case studies are very, very interesting. And even till today, it's very frequent that I come across a company and I know all about what goes on behind them, Southwest Airlines or Best Buy, just because we've talked about all these things in the course of the program. So it is very interesting. It's not dry topics. And so I think the more time that you can set aside, be very disciplined about it, it does pay off over the 2 years.
I would just say, mind the logistics, which is that, when I first started the program, I was commuting down from Stamford, Connecticut, Jersey, and I had this crazy goal that I was going to drive every other weekend down, and quickly realized that I needed a sleeping time on Amtrak, and so that's what it became. And the other thing is amazing how much you can cut out of your life that you don't realize you can live without. ESPN, for example, becomes something that's not necessarily something you need to turn on all the time. But I agree with Pauline that the discipline piece is very important, because there's nothing worse than showing up to class and not having done the work, not having read the case, because you're shorting yourself and you're shorting the experience for your entire class, and you feel like you're letting people down, and your teams too. I'm sure we're going to get to that, but part of it is you have these very cohesive, family-like, brother-sister-like teams that you work with, And you know, you want to make sure that you're there for them. So organize your life to make sure that you can actually deliver for it. It's short but intense, and so you know that there's the other side of this, and that's how, you know, it went by really fast though. So that's the other thing I'd say.
Along those lines, what in particular surprised you most about your classmates? Or in year one, you mentioned study groups, Val. In year one, we do divide the class into study groups or teams based on the diversity of backgrounds, industries, life experiences, and they stay intact for year one. But then year two, you get into that elective portion of the program and you disperse and work with many different people. But with your classmates, surprises.
I think one of the biggest surprises to me was just how genuine and thoughtful my classmates were. I think there is a reputation that business schools are full of kind of egotistical and pompous and competitive people. And I personally thought my classmates were extremely supportive, very, very kind, very funny, just people that I wanted to spend a lot of time with. My study group, we were all in Washington, D.C. or in the suburbs, and we got together every week if we had work or not, just because we liked spending time together. We still get together, well, before pandemic time, we used to get together for WEMBA Wednesdays in DC. You know, they are people who I think will be lifelong friends. They're just people who I think very highly of intellectually, but also just very genuine people who, you know, very, very surprising to be glad to call them my colleagues and classmates.
Yeah, I think the benefit of the WEMBA program is that folks are just a little bit further along in their careers, right? So to a certain extent, it's more about they're there for kind of professional development as opposed to being competitive, right? I think the other thing that comes with that is just perspective, right? And that everybody's been in their particular roles long enough that they've failed at something, or that they've kind of had something that they have to overcome. And invariably, you know, the only lesson from success is gratitude. You know, the lessons that really have value is where things haven't gone right. And just having a cohort of 100 folks that are working at all these different companies like Netflix and everywhere else across the Bay Area, it just brought a lot of experience to the point that the discussions were very, very meaningful and worthwhile with the benefit of hindsight.
Did anybody else want to add on to that?
Something that really stuck out to me right at the beginning was we were doing a project and we chose to do ExxonMobil and the merger. And so I had been told that once you're in the Wharton Alumni, you know, you make a call and you always get a call back to anybody at that time, 90,000 alumni. And so I looked up LinkedIn and I found somebody who had been with ExxonMobil during the time of their merger. Reached out to him and he was so gracious. He got on a call with my learning team and myself, spoke with us for a couple of hours, gave us his perspective when he was part of the merger. And it was after the conversation that I looked up a little more information about him. And he was named one of the top 10 most influential people in ExxonMobil at that time. And so you had someone there who was so gracious with his time and so open about the whole merger, who talked with me decades later, was so willing to, you know, share all that information with me, just a total stranger on LinkedIn. And so that was something that really brought it home to me as to how cohesive the Wharton alumni is and how supportive we stay with each other lifelong.
And to kind of carry on what Dennis was saying, that you're in classes with more experienced individuals, so you're learning from them. And the professors in our program absolutely love it when they get the opportunity to teach our students. They teach in the full-time program and then they're flying to San Francisco. So I would love it if you guys would share thoughts on that academic aspect. I mean, you guys being in the finance realm could probably have filled your second year schedules with just finance courses if you wanted, but did you take something that was out of your wheelhouse, and anything about a professor that kind of comes to mind? And we hear sometimes students are still in touch with some of the faculty as they move forward.
So I'll go.
Say
one
of the.
Go ahead, Captain.
Good. Well, so one of the classes I took a lot of the finance classes, but I took a class called Influence, and it was really about how do you influence your corporate culture in kind of a non-domineering way. And it was, I think it was a very introspective course. It was kind of everyone sharing their personal experiences, thoughts, and I think I learned as much from the professor or the text or the famous people we studied as I did from my classmates, and just their experiences. And I mean, I think that one of the nice things about WEMBA is you really do build this community, and I think you build it very quickly because you realize you're all in this fire together. And people are very open, with their successes and their failures and what they're struggling with. And I think just your learning opportunity from everyone else's experiences, some of those are the things that I still remember today and have helped me when I think about progressing in my career or just trying to positively influence my corporation. But I will say, I think even the finance classes I was in, it was wonderful having classmates who did have a great deal of experience or were running their own funds or, whatever they were doing, because there were a lot of professors who would point to certain people and say, well, tell me what your investment thesis is, or in the real world, how do you do this? And people could give real world examples, sometimes contradicting, the textbook example. And I think that is so invaluable when you go to translate what you're learning from a classroom into your job. And I think that's probably pretty unique to the WEMBA cohort.
I think the quality of the professors that we got was the one thing that really impressed me throughout the entire tenure. So taking macroeconomics with Professor Abel, who literally co-wrote the textbook with Ben Bernanke, was just crazy. And so, when you're kind of going through some of these building blocks concepts, but you're learning them from the guys who have literally written the books, was kind of hugely impactful. And to Catherine's point, the professors, I think, enjoyed the dialogue. We were going through our leadership class and we were doing a Netflix case study. And in our class was the person that ran the data analytics platform for all of Netflix. So just getting that richness to the dialogue and just being able to kind of take the best professors with kind of members of the cohort that are living a lot of these case studies is just really kind of a very powerful combination.
Yeah, the most memorable class I had was probably law, actually, and it was it's just eye-opening because you could look at it and say, well, it's a very dry topic, but I've used so much of that throughout the course of my career since just the foundation of how that was taught was just amazing. The other piece I would mention is that because of obviously the prestige of the school, professors routinely got amazing speakers to come in, and I still remember, one was one of the co-founders of Carlyle came in to talk about private equity. And another time, one of actually the Deloitte CEO showed up and gave a little bit of a leadership lesson to the class. It's just the access. I think that's what Pauline was talking about, and the how open the professors were. They didn't need to be the only person conveying information to you. They facilitated your learning through any means possible. That was really cool.
the other thing that I've realized since I graduated is that I did not do a major in finance because I thought I knew enough of accounting and finance jargon. I wanted to learn about topics that I thought were a bunch of fluff. So I did one of my majors in operations and marketing because I didn't want to be bullshitted by the marketing people asking for a bigger budget in my real life. And so, but what that has helped me, and I know from time to time, it has taught me to look at any single topic from different perspectives. I'm looking at it from a complete 360-degree angle, which I never did before. Prior to Wharton, I only looked at it as a business person and as an accounting person. But now I look at it from a marketing angle. I look at it from a legal perspective angle. I look at it from a macroeconomic angle. And that comes just instinctively because it's been taught to us by professors who are so passionate about the subject. And just the whole topic is conveyed to us in such a way that we look at it from the inside and from the outside. And even today, I was on a call with one of my clients and she wanted to do something. I pointed out a couple of things that she needed to consider. And she said, I had not thought about it that way. But the reason I could bring that up was because of my Wharton education, for sure.
Thank you. We have a question here about the international experiences that are available at Wharton. And two in particular, I'd love for you to touch upon, if you would. We have our Global Business Week, which is a required week abroad in year 2. And you'll see that set aside on the calendar that's out there on our website. That is an experience where both coasts get an opportunity to pick from one of 4 different locations, and you'll spend a week abroad visiting companies and on the ground learning how business is being conducted in that country. The other thing is our global modular courses, and these are very intensive courses led by Wharton faculty in other parts of the globe, anywhere from 3 to 7 days in length. And they are open to our East and West cohorts, as well as our full-time MBA students. Did any of you participate in global modular courses? I know you all participate in a Global Business Week, but if you'd share some of that experience, please.
So I did luxury branding and marketing for my global modular course. We got a chance to go to Milan, went to Italy, and one of the businesses that we visited was a Ferrari factory. And what was interesting to me, first of all, it was very clear that Wharton opened doors for us at, multinational big brand names. But while the people at the Ferrari factory were presenting to us what they did, it was very clear to me they were looking to recruit people from our class. So that was kind of a interesting, perspective to get. We looked at how Parmigiano Reggiano was made from the region of Parma. We went to the Louis Vuitton flagship store in Milan. And again, if it wasn't for Wharton, I don't think we would have had those opportunities and those doors open to us.
One of the trips I went on was the Global Business Week, and I went to Cuba, which was, I think, the first year that the program offered this trip, and it was really focused on healthcare, which was fascinating because so in my year, there were a number of doctors who were in my program, and a lot of them were also in Cuba with us. And they kind of were able to offer some critiques of the medical system and what was told to us to be state of the art, that they could kind of see through some of the propaganda that we were fed. So it was, another benefit of WEMBA classmates, but it was, fascinating just to meet with some high-level government employees and private sector, and really try to decipher, what was real and what we were being told. But it was a nice mix of experiencing the culture as well as what the economy was based on.
We, as a part of our kind of international week, we were in China, which was fascinating. And we were in both Beijing and Shanghai and got to meet with Nike and Microsoft and Baidu and walked around a steel manufacturing plant. We went to the Great Wall. Just the level of perspective that we got over the course of a week, and to the point that Pauline made about the access that kind of Wharton created in terms of the companies that we were able to meet and the perspective that we were able to get was fascinating.
Yeah, we did China as well, and we had the most memorable presentations was AIG. Just how does that company in that industry operate in a different environment? And it was, again, not a I'll call it show and tell. It was much more of a sit down and a discussion about business strategy, and it's not like they were just being nice and inviting you in for a cup of tea. It was some serious discussions. The second one I remember was GM and one of their joint ventures in producing cars in China. And the GM of that, the general manager of that business unit, came and talked to us about challenges and what they were trying to solve and how they thought about it. So they all took it very seriously, and we got a lot out of it.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks think you have to give up the international aspect of an MBA if you do it in the executive format, but not at Wharton. It's absolutely just part and parcel of the on the ground opportunities, as well as just in the classroom opportunities with your classmates, professors, and the curriculum. So it looks like we have a few people here are looking to make some career changes. If you could speak to whether you made a change within the finance function, or do you think that having a Wharton MBA via the executive format could help someone who wants to segue into finance? And I do want to address, there's one viewer who's wondering about internships, but I want to make it clear that in the executive program, everybody's working full time. So it's a different model than our full-time MBA, where they do have internships, not in WEMBA. Everybody's working. Some people make a job change along the way, but most people wait till shortly thereafter the program to make it happen. It's a lot. So if you could just address how it impacted you personally as you made your career changes, and if you think that people can use it to segue into a finance role.
I would say I guess stayed at the company I was with for 2 years after graduating from WEMBA, and was able to, I think, leverage my WEMBA experience and my MBA to get promoted at the company I was at and try to help kind of launch a new business line. But I was then recruited for the job I currently have, an investment management role. And I do think that, now that I'm at the firm and kind of see the background of other people, I do realize that having a certain or having at least a business school degree and from specific schools, I think has really helped me personally. I think that's kind of one of the reasons why I was even targeted from the recruiters. I think there are several people from my class who I know they completely pivoted into finance. They were working in more like DC government type jobs, and this isn't for everyone, but they decided they wanted to recruit for full-time positions and became investment bankers. Actually, I had 2 classmates who kind of pivoted from their existing careers, both became investment bankers. Their families were still in New Jersey and Virginia, and they shared an apartment, and now are successful investment bankers at the companies that they recruited at.
I guess I would just say that, a lot of people automatically think about career changes as changing companies. And one of the things, at least for me, is that I think going through this allows you to explore other parts of the company or different roles that normally you would have been in a box, and it would have been harder for you to break out of that box. And so the credibility, and of course, and Catherine talked about the ability to interact with senior executives in a thoughtful way, actually opens up a whole bunch of different doors that previously just wouldn't have been available. Because in my case, you know, I would have been the CPA, and so they, you know, people would come to you and say, okay, well, what do you think about this from an accounting standpoint? All right, yeah, I nail that. But it's harder for them to come to you and say, well, like, what's the impact of that, and how do you think that plays out in, you know, in terms of motivating the team to try to get something different done. So I think in my case, it wasn't a wholesale career change. It just presented many more doors than that could have been opened than if I was on the path I was on.
But the difference is that the consulting role I was in when I joined Wharton, I was so afraid and nervous to go and talk to the CEO of the company. I would interact with the finance manager, and he would keep saying, you know, you should meet with talk to the president of the company on a weekly basis. And I didn't want to do it. I was scared because I felt like I don't know anything. But now I only interact with the owners and business owners of the clients that I have, and I want to talk with them. So the client I spoke with today, her day off is Wednesday, and I'm always bothering her on a Wednesday because I know I have her undivided attention. So it completely changed my ability and the way I look at it, because I now know I have value to bring, and I seek out those opportunities.
So could you share some of the activities outside of class? You're working really hard. You have a full-time job, you have amazing classmates, you're doing what's equivalent to a full-time MBA, but any comments on the outside activities with your classmates, whether it be speakers or clubs or, you know, trips that you've taken as groups or marathons you've run together?
So when we were at Wharton, there was the Wharton pub, which was on the second floor of the hotel, and there was a fair amount of time that our cohort spent getting to know each other in that particular environment. But I think that, you know, the benefit of the vetting process that the admission process goes through is that these are people that you really do want to spend time with. And, you know, the guys that were in my study team, I still talk to on a fairly regular basis. And, you know, I think that interaction endures beyond kind of the 2-year program.
I think the time during WEMBA, at least for me, was really spent a lot of time on my job and WEMBA classwork, but my classmates and I, we did get together every week to have dinner and do our homework together and do our projects. So that was a commitment we made to each other. But since WEMBA, you know, I've traveled with my classmates to, you know, around the world, and are still people I choose to go visit, and people have holiday parties and whatnot, and you know, we traveled to New York to see classmates and whatnot. So I think it really is a lifelong group of friends.
So no midnight cheesesteaks for you, Catherine?
Any leadership?
Yes.
Anybody do leadership ventures? No.
Anybody else want to add to the social aspect of the program?
I will say, when you are on campus, every Friday night, I think, is, you know, an opportunity to get to know your classmates, and pretty much everyone goes out, everyone has dinner together, everyone, you know, just kind of lets loose and goes to the pub or goes to bars or restaurants or, you know, dance clubs. You know, everyone's out there. One of our classmates was a orthopedic surgeon who, you know, his girls are in college and out of college at this point, but he was probably the guy that was leading us to the dance clubs in Philadelphia, he would kind of change into his dance shirt and lead us out. And I mean, it's just a great opportunity to kind of de-stress and get to know everyone. So everyone's included, that's for sure.
Hopefully you guys have gotten a taste of the diversity of the program, even, you know, this is a finance panel, but, you know, they've shared how diverse their classmates are and interests and so forth. And in order to keep up on the news at Wharton, we would definitely encourage everyone to sign up for the Knowledge at Wharton e-newsletter. Anybody can go to the Wharton website and sign up for that, because then you get a constant reminder of all the research that's being done at Wharton and all the different voices that are there from professors and students and alumni. And another piece is the business radio. Wharton is on that channel, and the career services director in Philadelphia, Dawn Graham, has a show there, Dr. Dawn Careers. On Thursdays at noon, it's live, but she has a constant supply of guests and sometimes alumni. She helps our students make those pivots. She's an expert in networking. So for most of the students, it's Dawn in the East Coast and Steve Hernandez in San Francisco, who just work so well together to do all sorts of programming to make sure that the students are getting what they want, and no matter if they're growing in their company or exploring new roles or making bigger pivots and doing something that they might not have expected as they started out.
And just a reminder, as Wharton alumni, you can come back and audit classes at any time in your life, elective classes at no charge. So hopefully we'll see you all back on campus, you know, soon. And I think this is a great benefit, and it really shows Wharton embraces that lifelong learning, because our electives do change and evolve with the times as well. So we certainly probably have some electives that we're offering now that maybe weren't available when you graduated, or if your roles or your change or pivot and you didn't take those electives when you were on campus, come back. So any parting words for our audience? Any words of advice? Getting lots of nice shout outs, by the way.
So I would just say that, you know, when I started the program, our second was 6 weeks old. And I think one thing you figure out is, to the point that Pauline and Val made, you get what you put into this program in terms of timing it, but it's not a program that is just going to fit into your life as it sits today. It takes a level of commitment and a level of planning. And, you know, for me, it was a fantastic opportunity, but it is something that, you know, just going in with eyes wide open, making sure that your family is kind of eyes wide open to the commitment that you're making. Because I think in a lot of ways, you know, everything's new at the beginning and you have an opportunity to kind of see everything, but really making sure that, you know, your loved ones are understanding and you're appreciating of what it's like for them as you're embarking on this new chapter is just really helpful as you kind of enter the process. But it was very much worth everything you put into it in that sense.
I always say that doing the Wharton MBA was the best gift I have ever given myself. And nothing comes close. You know, even buying a house and having a home is not as big a gift as doing the MBA at Wharton was. The other thing that I was very struck with was that I never felt nickeled and dimed at Wharton. They treated you, they gave you, you got the best of the best, from the quality of the professors to every single last thing. I never felt like they cut any corners on anything. So those are the two things that make me very, very happy that this is what I chose. And honestly, looking back, I think my life has pretty much been about giving to other people, but this is the one thing I gave myself, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. I mean, it is a very arduous 2-year program. It's exhausting, but it is, you know, 2 years that I will forever cherish, just in terms of the connections I made, you know, the opportunity to pause in your career and kind of ask questions and think differently, especially, you know, just challenge yourself in a different way than you're used to day to day. So it really is, it is a great investment, and it's a great 2 years, and it pays dividends down the road.
So I would describe it as a concept that you all are going to have to go through when you go through this program, which is option value. You know, early in your career, you don't have a lot of capital, and the way to accelerate your success is to pay this premium to buy this option, and this option is going to pay off in a different way that you can't predict today. And if you're just looking at it as a cost benefit of, you know, this is what it costs to do the program, then I think you're missing the boat on what the payoff value is on what it does, because again, it changes, for me at least, the career trajectory. And I can confidently say that I don't think I'd be here today without having gone through that rigor and that program. So you know, take it seriously if you're going to do it. It's very demanding, but it's almost like a self-selecting group of masochists who then go out, you know, come out on the other side pretty jazzed and successful.
Great. Thank you very much to our panelists for sharing this evening with us, and hopefully the folks who are viewing want to keep exploring. You can go to our website and schedule a chat so we can talk about your specific, you know, case. I know a lot of you had questions about your background and so forth that we can talk to you about one-on-one. But hopefully this gave you a taste of it, and hopefully you've got some nice restful plans over the holidays.
Thank you. So good seeing you all. Happy holidays, everyone. Take care.
Happy holidays.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care.